I'm Alex.
And I'm Teddy.
And I'm Spencer.
And we are
The Button Mappers.
Hey, the Button Mappers.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm Resident Teddy.
And I'm Resident Spencer.
And I'm Jill Valentine.
And I am Resident Bruno, SNES Mapper. Stars!
That's right, Resident Bruno. Welcome to the Resident Stars. We here at the Button Mappers are here to conclude the month of horrible gaming, distinguishing between the horror and the horrible. And we have a very special game to map out today. Why?
Bubsy 3D.
Yes, I agree, Bubsy 3D must be pretty horrible. But for today, we're here to map out none other.
Clue Land.
Yes, Clue Land really belongs in that category. But not this time, because today, we're gonna map out
Sonic
Resident... No time for Sonic. Evil Remake HD Remaster.
Is it all those?
Featuring Spectrum.
Is it all those things? I guess it kind of is, right?
I think that was pretty accurate, actually.
It took me a long time to figure that one out. I was
It's a
using the wrong
remaster?
guide for like the first 3 times I played it.
Yeah. Press the square button.
Alex is
the
like,
square button.
it's the PS4 HD Remaster guide.
Oh well, yeah. No, whenever we decided to do this, I was like, make sure you're following the GameCube version. You guys were like, it doesn't matter. And then Teddy, like a couple days later, was like, I don't know what's going on. And I was like, you're looking at the wrong version. What did I tell you?
Well, I figured it out eventually. I'm glad I did, because that's why we're here today. We're here today to map out Resident Evil, a classic in many people's books, especially Bruno's. And I figured we'd just kind of run down the line here and just kind of talk about was your experience with Resident Evil and maybe hopes and anticipations for today. Bruno, you start.
Yeah, thank you once again for inviting me to another map out, another childhood favorite of mine. I already talked briefly about this game in your guys' channel in a previous game talk. But pretty excited to have a full-blown map out of one of my favorite games. It's my favorite Resident Evil game with a reason. I'm a pretty big fan of the original on the PS1, but when the remake came out on the Gamecube, it just blew my mind. And I owned it on different versions, ranging from the original Gamecube, Wii, PS3, PS4, and I did play this one on Steam. Just to have a little bit of variety, and thought about doing some playing with mods, but in the end I ended up playing just a regular version of the game. I may do a second playthrough with Chris and use some of the mods that Steam offers. But yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite games of all time, and very excited to talk about it with you guys.
Excellent. Well, welcome back.
Thanks.
Alex, you're up.
I love Resident Evil. The first time I played this version was on the Wii port, but prior to that, my first Resident Evil was 4, and then I went back to experience the rest of the titles. And I'm a huge Resident Evil fan. I think I'm missing like a couple of the spin-offs, but I have most of the main title games, and I have like some of the novels, the movies. I even have a Jill Valentine action figure from the original Resident Evil release. So I'm a huge fan, and I'm very excited to talk about Resident Evil.
1 HD Remaster Remake.
For the GameCube, PS3, PS4, Steam, Xbox One, and Switch.
And the DS.
No, that's one.
Speaking of the DS, Spencer.
I thought he was going to say Jill Valentine's sex pillow.
I wish. Dude, don't think I'm above not buying that.
I've got a friend who legit probably does have one. Let's not get into that.
Especially the Jill Valentine for this remake. It's my personal favorite. Yeah, Julia.
I don't know. I like tube top Jill Valentine too. From 3.
Pick your Jill.
But do you like the original one or the remake actress? Because they changed the actress
Oh
for
yeah,
the third one.
That's true. I like the original. The third one looks weird for like the
Yeah,
remake.
she looks kind of weird, but yeah, Julia Voth, which plays the Jill Valentine for this remake. She's my favorite.
Sorry, Spencer. Trying to talk about Jill.
Oh no, it's probably more interesting than anything I got. This is my first. This is my first. If you want to get the clicks, let's talk about who's her name? Julie Both. Let's get her on the show. Replace me. I've never played a Resident Evil before, so this is my first time playing any of these games.
Where have you been?
I don't do like horror games or any of this adventure.
Well, then play Resident Evil 6.
No.
Yeah, that one's recommended.
Yeah, if you don't do horror games, there you go.
Actually, I think the one I did the most was like a friend wanted me to play co-op Resident Evil 5 with him, and I just kind of was like, all right, this is kind of fun, but I know that even at that time, like I was like, I know this is not what Resident Evil is, so that's kind of weird, but all right. But yeah, no, this is my first Resident Evil, and I can't wait to dive into it with you guys. I was pleasantly surprised. I'll say that much. Teddy, what is your Resident Evil experience?
Well, it's funny you should ask because I don't have much, but I did play. I remember I was like a teenager, a very young teenager at the time. Resident Evil 4 came out. I went over to my friend Scott's house down the block, and he had it. And it's like, this is a mature game. It's probably one of the first mature games I played, besides like Conker's Bad Fur Day, which is like kind of goofy, but. When I saw Resident Evil 4 and like the town and everything and like the chainsaw guy running after you, I was like, oh my gosh, this stuff's so scary. I played Resident Evil 4 again over the years, but Resident Evil 1 was one that I was hard pressed to go back to. I think most people kind of jumped on board the Resident Evil series with Resident Evil 4, at least from like maybe my generation of like younger gamers, and going back to like that older tank control style of Resident Evil has always been kind of daunting, I would say. I did play it on the PS4 with the updated control scheme, so that I think it's supposed to be a little bit more playable than or like at least navigatable for new gamers. And it took me a while to get used to. Not until I like was almost done with the game did I really get the hang of it. But I really did come to appreciate the experience, even though it's not my preferred genre. And that's I played this game on the DS before through Deadly Silence, and it was interesting. But I think I was like getting frustrated, and I think this was the right way for me to play it. I think I've heard Bruno talk about it before, just the HD remake on his channel. And just like saying like what a fantastic experience it is, and I was really compelled by it by the end.
Teddy, are you telling me the game that has a scene where a pitchfork tries to hang himself but realizes he can't because he doesn't have a neck is goofy? Take that back.
Actually, I'm like chuckling in my head. It's giving me laughs.
Okay,
that's where it's important to get laughs, not out loud.
In your head.
Those internal laughs are where it gets you.
Right. With that, we're gonna laugh our way along through this one because Resident Evil has a bunch of goofy cutscenes.
Woohoo!
And you start off Resident Evil, and I don't know, Alex, can you kind of give us a rundown of like what the entry point or the starting point of Resident Evil is?
You push the start button. That's the entry point.
Okay. After
you mean like what's going on?
Yes.
So you're in. It's the Arclay Mountains, right? You play as a member of STARS. The game opens up and the STARS are investigating after a helicopter crash, right? And some of their people have gone missing. There's been reports of cannibals. What the hell? People eat people? It's fucking weird. So they go up to the mountains, and things are not as they seem, and they get ambushed by a bunch of doggos and chased into a mansion.
Mansion. Wow.
Mansion.
What's your guys' kind of experience with the opening sequence of Resident Evil?
It's not as good as the original. Wait! Don't go!
Don't go.
That's Teddy. That's an in joke because they've played it and we have it. I assume there will be more of them.
Oh my God. The original intro is amazing because the original intro is live action.
Yep.
And it's like it has like a title sequence. It's like Jill Valentine, it's Chris Redfield, Barry Burton, and they all do like cool poses to the camera and stuff.
Yeah, the original intro is a classic.
Alpha Team is flying around the forest zone situated in northwest Raccoon City, where we're searching for the helicopter of our compatriots Bravo Team, who disappeared during the middle of our mission.
You haven't found it?
No, I haven't found it yet. Bizarre murder cases have recently occurred in Raccoon City. There are outlandish reports of families being attacked by a group of about 10 people. Victims were apparently eaten. Bravo Team went to the hideout of the group and disappeared.
Actually, it's funny because they were trying to interview like the original like members, like the actual actors and actresses that did the video, and there's actually like a pretty cool website that kind of chased all these actors through, because they were nobody was famous obviously, and pretty cool to check that website out. But yeah, no, the remake I think has a beautiful CG graphics, 3D models that are fantastic. Back then it was just mind blowing. The amount of detail that they put for that intro.
They scoured every Starbucks from LA to Manhattan to find them.
Starbucks.
No, it's interesting because the game originally was it's obviously a Japanese game from Capcom, and these were like Western and like either I think they were Canadian and American actors living in Japan at the time, and they were obviously very they were nobodies pretty much, and it was funny because it was a low budget production and they had to record everything in like one take and everything, and there's a pretty cool story out there for if you guys are interested.
Very cool. I remember the guy getting his face bit off by a dog.
Hell yeah, that's metal.
Oh, I didn't know he had a name.
Yeah, Metal Sonic.
I just want to throw out some trivia. Did you guys know that Resident Evil was called
Biohazard?
Yes.
Oh,
in
beat you to
Japan?
it. Do you know why?
Oh,
Because there was a band with the copyright.
oh,
Capcom doesn't like being sued.
oh.
Also,
Well, that
we
makes
here in
sense.
America appreciate viruses.
What?
Oh.
So, it's not actually a biohazard because we like it. So it's a bio welcome,
Yeah, come on in.
like a bio phoenix.
There you go.
Speaking of Chris,
You get two characters.
Chris and Jill.
Chris Redfield, or the correct choice, Jill Valentine.
Jill, this way. Who's that? A little trivia for you.
Are you Wesker?
Yes. 1 point to Alex.
Thank you.
Sure.
I wish I was as cool as Wesker with those fucking glasses, dude.
And I think we all
Hey,
played
where's-
with Jill, right?
The question is,
Where-
who doesn't play with Jill?
Well, when you put it that way.
I guess maybe we should throw out there some of the differences and distinguishments between the two.
Jill is essentially the easy mode, or at least the normal mode. Then Chris is the hard mode because you get less inventory space. And also it does affect the story a tad bit, like Barry, which, I mean, you want Barry. You need Barry.
Yeah, I think if you go with Chris, Rebecca Chambers has a
No.
bigger role, but it's not as interesting. I agree. If people out there are listening, I think Jill Valentine is the best way to start the game.
I want some Barry to love. Spencer, tell us about Barry as you enter the mansion. The first area in Resident Evil.
uh, Barry's there finding the when you're in the dining hall, and you end up seeing the dead guy or the blood or
The
whatever.
blood, yeah, the like puddle of blood.
Barry's kind of a coward. He's constantly telling you,
Oh my
well,
god.
I mean, I guess it's a mechanism because it's a video game, but he's always like, I'm going to stay here. Can you go?
There you go.
You can play a drinking game on like how many times Barry's like, we should split up. You go ahead.
I'm gonna stay here and secure this area.
Yeah.
Like Barry does not want to help you at all during this game. Like you think like you're stuck in a spooky mansion together, like you just want to stay together, but it's like I'm gonna stay here. You go on ahead and face the danger.
All while having the most powerful weapon in the game, like the Magnum.
The big mag.
Yeah, he's got a one-hit kill weapon, and he's like,
This man just must not be attracted to females because he's always like, let's split up.
let's
Yeah.
get out of here. Jill,
I'm gonna
Jill, you're 90 pounds soaking wet. Can you take on that giant snake?
I'm just gonna sit here and poke this puddle of blood.
You can run away properly. Guarding the escape.
I hope this isn't Chris's blood.
Yeah.
I do love the original version of that cutscene because Barry just goes, "What is this? This is blood."
Answer his own question. Yeah, no, Barry seems to be some kind of coward, but he is your way of getting your next location to explore. He's a transitionary point, and he just goes, "I'll guard your exit. Can you go look at this new area that we're ready to explore?" And there you go.
Speaking of areas to explore, the mansion actually has several floors, and you start off on the first floor. Bruno, can you tell us a little bit about the first floor of the mansion?
Yeah, it's a interesting place to be. I think it's a perfect setting for the game. It has a very unique atmosphere. And of course, the game opens up. There's some rooms that you can access that are immediately available, and then you also come to learn that there are some rooms that require keys. So you start exploring obviously the rooms that are open, starting with the dining room, going into the what it's called the tea room, where you find your first I guess zombie or monster, as Jill calls it. And then you can either go back to the dining room and let Barry eliminate the monster, or you can kill him with Jill with the handgun. But yeah, then you make your way up. You have to go back to the main hall to talk to Wesker, and then you find out that he's not there anymore. So you start exploring things up, and then going up to the second floor. You can either go, I believe, towards the art room to get the map, and that's kind of the area where the game kind of teaches you some of the mechanics, where you have to push certain things in order to either solve puzzles or access certain areas. So a little bit of a, I guess, tutorial, hidden tutorial, if you will, having to push things around. And also when you go up to the second floor, one of the first areas, you get that one of the items forces you pretty much to examine the item in order to get the tip of the arrow. So a lot of I guess new mechanics are introduced in this area of the game.
You said a word there I really liked, and I think kind of suits this game in general. It was atmosphere. I think each of these rooms really signifies like that really kind of dark, tense, suspenseful atmosphere. And part of that's even just like the doors or the method of entry. I know this game is famous for like the doors that you enter. What are some of you guys most remembered experiences from the rooms of the mansion?
Which I guess it goes for all of them throughout the game, but the first thing I want to bring up is that I absolutely love the safe rooms. The like relaxing music that plays when you get in there. It's like relaxing and eerie at the same time, and I don't know how they did it. There's actually like I have a PS4 theme that's like the 20th anniversary theme that actually has that like playing in the background on your PS4 menu. So I usually keep that on a lot of the time, and it's just like that like soothing like dun, 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 ooh, music and stuff. But I don't know why. It's just like it's scary and calming at the same time, and I always remember those rooms.
It's like a little sanctuary.
Yeah. It's like you just like, oh, okay, I'm safe here. Like you hear that music, you like take a deep breath for a second. Like,
But the second you step out of that room, anything can happen, you know?
Yeah.
Especially later when you get a fuel canteen.
Oh, burn them up.
I was so impressed by just like the subtleties of the environment, but in the example I'm going to go with would be the windows. I think the windows add so much character that you wouldn't even think about like when you're making a game, but I guess in a horror game it's like another layer. And just like constantly like my eyes are like and I almost think that knowing like some of the history of the series because I've never played like the games, but you know things about Resident Evil just through osmosis of being a gamer. And it's like I know that things pop through the window. Like I'm aware of that. And I think that actually helped me like enjoy the game more. Is now I'm walking through every corridor and I'm like, oh, there's windows here. And I'm just kind of like eyeing them, like inching forward, like, you gonna do this? You're gonna do this? And it's, it never did, like, except for like a couple spots. But that subtle use of it is so effective at like just scaring the pants off me. And I remember like, and this is a little bit later, so maybe I shouldn't go into it too much, but just as an aside, there's a part where there's a window and there's actually like a zombie like on the outside of it, like banging to get in, and you can sort of see the shadow on the wall of it doing it. Mm-hmm. And I'm just waiting for the moment he comes in. And that atmosphere is a killer, man. I love it.
That's a good point. That is actually on the first floor of the mansion, by the way. It's the F-shaped hallway. Bruno, what would be one of your or some of your most remembered and, nostalgic rooms from the mansion?
Yeah, I think I'm with Spencer. The rooms that are, I guess, on the perimeters of the mansion that have windows in them, I like them because they provide special effects, if that makes any sense. Sometimes you would, for example, walk in thunder or lightning effects will happen. Or you would walk in a window would have its own animation, the wind kind of like flapping the wood frame of the window, and you see like the leaves on the outside of the trees and things like that. Those, I think, small touches add a lot to the atmosphere of the game, and just it just make it so scary. And also like the rooms that are low lit, that lack some certain lights, obviously. I don't have anyone in particular, but this game I found myself using the F12 button on my laptop, taking screenshots, on the Steam version, because I think every room it's very special. I don't think there's any room where it's lacking like a soul or personality. Every room is very well designed. Whoever did the pre-rendered backgrounds, deserves a gold medal, because the amount of detail that they put is just astonishing.
Oh my God, you're so right. And that reminds me of like even some of the tropes of turn-based RPGs, where it's like you go and press X next to everything and just read everything. I feel like I was doing that with like every painting on the wall or like every little item, and there'd be little stories, there'd be little journals left around, notes.
Can I go on a little tangent on that?
Go.
On how angry this game makes me, in a good way, and I'll explain what that means. You guys know, I'm a huge fan of like PS1 RPGs where there's the pre-rendered backgrounds, and you're walking around and you're clicking X and whatever, and finding little secrets and finding little ways to go, and you explore this almost like cinematic style RPG. RPGs like at this point, so this is the GameCube remake. RPGs at this point took like a divergent path. They went from those pre-rendered backgrounds to a more 3D experience. And I'm like, dude, this GameCube remake looks freaking amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And like, imagine if they just kept making RPGs like this and using this level of like pre-rendered detail and everything. dude, the Final Fantasies would be so much better. And, like, so many RPGs would be so much better if they just looked like this Resident Evil. Obviously not as dark, but like use that concept and just kept going with that. Oof, what a missed opportunity, I think.
Yeah, that's I think one of the things that I like the most about not only the remake but Resident Evil 0 as well, because it has that same graphical style with pre-rendered backgrounds, and I think it's pretty hard to find games that have this level of quality in the pre-rendered backgrounds, which is why when Resident Evil 2 got announced to have a remake, I was crossing my fingers and hoping it'll be the old school style, with pre-rendered backgrounds, but they wound up going the other route, the 3D route, which is great because that game is also fantastic. But I agree with Spencer. It would have been nice to see more games use this type of technology, if you will.
I do actually have a kind of like most nostalgic room here. I don't know, like I really do like all the rooms, as you were saying before, Bruno, but there's one that really juts out to me. It's a room with the crows. It's not the one that's on the side of like the area where you meet your first zombie. It's one where you have to like align the lighting for the paintings, and if you screw it up, they all come swooping down and try and attack you.
Yeah,
now, if this was the DS version, you'd be like swiping your touchscreen, like
The noises that those crows make is just horrifying. They sound like dying animals. And like I was playing this game with like my over the head earphones. Every time I'd enter one of these rooms, what the hell is that? Like, is there a monster around the corner? Oh, it's just a damn crow. Okay. But like I think like just the sounds, like you can hear zombies like as they're approaching and in corners and stuff. When there's like a monster in a room. And it was like the same deal with those crows. And I think like that was part of like my big suspense in playing this like authentically for the first time. And I'm sure people who've played the original game and are playing the remake kind of feel this way too. It's like, what can I expect around every corner? That room kind of like signified that as well for me, in addition to almost every room in the mansion.
Are there any puzzles that you guys really remember? I know for me, it's not really a puzzle per se, but I really love the scene with the piano, where you get the you get the music sheet and stuff, and you play the piano, then it opens up like the wall. I don't know why, just like when you're building like a spooky horror mansion themed game, like that's such like a classic idea. Like like either that or like the door behind the bookshelf, or like those types of things. So I remember the first time I was playing this and I got the music sheet and I was like, oh, can I like actually just play the piano? And I did, and then like the whole wall just like slides up, and I'm like, ah.
No, I agree. That's one of my most memorable moments, not on the remake, but the original one. I remember when me and my buddies were playing on the PS1, and you get all the the music sheets, and they start playing Moonlight Sonata. I think it's the song. Just a very creepy, like eerie atmosphere. But as far as the puzzles, it's funny that Teddy mentioned that the gallery where the crows are, because I think that's probably one of my favorite puzzles. It has that visual element, and with the colors, you have to look at the main painting with that lady in there, and then figure out how to operate the colors and make sure you activate the colors on the right side. And obviously, if you mess up the puzzle, the crows will peck you.
Now, how did they get the crows to do that? We have no idea.
We have no idea.
Crows are watching like, you better not fuck this up.
My puzzle will be later. I can't wait to talk about it, but I do have a favorite puzzle, but it's not in the mansion.
But do you have any in the mansion?
Specific to the mansion? I mean, they're all pretty cool.
Shotgun. I like the shotgun one too.
I don't think I have a favorite in the mansion. Maybe the one where you got to move the statue and the walls are closing, but that comes a little bit later.
Yeah,
that one took me longer than I'm willing to admit to solve.
You're not alone.
Eddie, HBU.
Mine is definitely the block pushing puzzle where you get the. No, I'm joking. There's actually in the back of the mansion, the cemetery. It's so like you need to get all the 4 masks. I don't know that you call that a puzzle, but it's like a sequence based event, and I really like how you see like all the nails go into the coffin, and it's kind of just like expecting what's going to happen. You know, you see blood squirting out of the coffin, and you know you need something out of it, but you don't want to find out. I think that one really comes down to the atmosphere there too. So
That's a spooky area, like walking down those stairs.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite areas in the game. And speaking of that, when you walk down the stairs, something, I guess, like a piece of trivia, maybe you guys know, maybe not, but the GameCube version is the only version that has like a very special effect, because as you go down, there's like a fire effect, lighting effect, you know, like it's almost like a furnace, I think, as you're going down. And for whatever reason, Capcom was not able to reproduce that exactly lighting effect with the power of the PS4 and the PC version. For whatever reason, the emulation is just very specific, and so if you want to play the definitive version of that, going down the stairs, it's the GameCube version. I think has that best effect, which is kind of ironic because that was the original remake. And now we have all this technology with the remasters, and for whatever reason, they were not able to get the same effect going.
Point for the GameCube.
There you go.
That's the weird part about emulation is you can have a much more powerful system, but not emulate the way. Like they're still struggling to emulate the Sega Saturn because of how odd it is. Like from a building perspective, I mean they've gotten up to the PS2 that they've done it pretty well. But it just kind of depends on the system of how they built the architecture. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting stuff.
Yeah, and that's why they're also saying that PS3 emulation will be very hard because they had that special, whatever it was called, the cell architecture. It's supposedly like super hard to emulate. So, yeah.
Speaking of things that are
hard to emulate.
It's hard to emulate my terror the first time I played that puzzle with the like armor that like you like take the key out and then the armor comes like sliding your way with the spikes and stuff. You're like, oh! First time I ever played this, I had no idea what I was supposed to do there at first. So I picked up the key because they change puzzles between this version and the original. So I picked up the key. And I was like, okay, cool, key. And then the thing goes, and I was like,
That is definitely a moment. And it definitely teaches you about like using items and like putting your keys back and like little things like that. And like that whole time, the key's just sitting there like, oh, like, how am I going to get this key? What do I need? And, I guess you figure it out later. But, the examining items thing took me forever to figure out, which is why, like, I desperately needed a guide in the beginning because I just felt so unacquainted. But they do actually give you a manual with the arrow the first time you pick it up to tell you to examine items. I just wish I was paying attention.
Yeah, and even if you know that you have to examine items, some of them have like a very unique, like I guess, hitbox where you have to rotate it, and it has to be the perfect way for you to activate either a button or a specific, something to actually get the actual item. So it's a little bit of a wonky mechanic, but back in the day was a new feature compared to the original game.
There's definitely a jewelry box in the mansion that is an absolute nuisance.
Yep. That's the worst.
Yeah.
Can we get, speaking of wonky, I'm going to use that as my transition, not the jewelry box part. Speaking of wonky, can we just get the controls out of the way real quick? Like the combat controls and I guess controls in general?
Sure.
Yeah, they are weird, but they're weird for a point, I believe, because like it adds to the tension in a way. And I'm not defending bad controls, but I'm saying like given the circumstances, like a lot of the battles you're put in, like having these weird clunky controls kind of helps add to like the horror of the encounters.
Spencer, I'd like to hear your experience with the controls since you're a first-time Resident Eviler, or at least for the tank controls. And just even the camera angles and stuff too.
Camera angles. Okay. This is so complicated. There's like three parts to this. Okay. There's the camera angles. There's the actual like movement controls, which I use the upgraded version. So it's like slightly better than tank controls, but still not necessarily great. And then there's combat. So there's those three different pieces that all kind of have to go together. I think the camera was like the most minor problem of the group, although you constantly switch perspectives so drastically that the way that you're running, you have to change how you're running, like mid-camera change. So like if I'm going up and then the camera switches to like the exact opposite, I then have to immediately switch to going down. But like not even immediately, like there's like a delay because the game is generous, and I'll use generous as in quotes. You can't see that, but the game will let you keep going the same direction for like half a second, and then it'll undo that and just follow whatever your control is doing. So you have to know when to switch over, and that comes with just a little bit of time in like kind of understanding. When you're fighting a giant snake and you have to run in circles, that becomes a bit of a problem because I've never been to that library before. So it's like I don't know when the transitions are, and I'm kind of running away from a huge venomous snake. So that stuff is very frustrating. I question. Part of me agrees with Alex that yes, the controls sometimes feed the horror, and that you are clearly controlling a hugely inept person that has no ability to run. So it's like I kind of understand that yeah, it adds to the tension. I wonder if there's a better way to do it that also doesn't frustrate me maddeningly at the same time.
One of the things I noticed was that speaking of combat, while it really sucks aiming up or down, like there's only one angle at which you can aim up or down.
Yes.
I did appreciate that. Like it seems like there was some means of auto aim. So if there was an enemy in the room and then you aim, your cursor would automatically align with the enemy there. So, there was definitely that frustration of going from running in different camera angles, and like it really demanded that the room layout too, which comes, as you understand the game more and more and play it more and more. But that auto fire helped me immensely, and it made me less concerned about I think in modern games we're really concerned with, am I aiming for the head or am I aiming for the leg? And this kind of just took that step back of like, you don't need to really think about that as much.
Yeah, I think as far as combat goes, it's not something I'll ever like, and I bet you this is for most of the community. It's not something I'll ever like, but it's something that I can understand and appreciate at the end. It's like, I get why they did it, and I bet you there's a better way to do it, but no need to fix it. It's serviceable, and I can move on from it. Is that about right for you veterans? Does that describe the combat system in Resident Evil, or are you guys huge fans of it? I don't know. I
personally love the way the game is. Obviously, I was there since day one. So for me, the tank controls are actually second nature. That's the method that I use to play. Every time I play this game, I use tank controls, and to me, I think that addresses one of the issues you were having, Spencer. I know tank controls are hated, and I can see why. I totally understand, because it took me a while, playing the original game to grasp, the concept of tank controls. But in a game like this, where every camera angle changes very frequently. The beauty of the tank control is, as long as you press up, you're always moving forward. So no matter how the camera switches, you're going to be moving forward on the next screen. You don't have to let go of pushing forward, for example.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And to me, my brain is already adapted. So I know that if I want to turn to the right, I just put, while holding the up button, I push to the right. And the fact that Jill, or, your character, is facing different angles. Sometimes, your right is not the character's right necessarily. Sometimes, depending on the camera angle, to me, it's just second nature. I was able, every time I play this game, it's just normal to me. But I totally understand the critiques, of the tank controls and the fixed camera angles, which, in my opinion, that adds to the charm of the game. That adds to the atmosphere, because even when you go into a room, you don't know what's going to be, if it's in like in the hallway or something, and there's a turn, you don't know what's going to be, around that corner. And even if you have headphones and you hear and there's a zombie or a hunter in that room, you don't know how far he is from that corner. So it's almost like you're always trying to peek around the corner, and it just adds that element of tension that it's unmatched, in my opinion, versus other games.
I for sure would not change the camera angles. I love the fixed camera angles. I wish the controls worked better with it, but that makes a lot of sense. The tank control part, like maybe I should have gone with just the classic tank controls, because that makes a lot more sense. Why forward always just moves you forward.
Mm-hmm.
Because the camera angles do switch, so it allows you to just keep going forward. Okay, that adds a lot. That makes a lot of sense.
Alex.
Try playing Devil May Cry 1. That's all I gotta say to you guys. That game is like Resident Evil style camera angles and tank controls, but with high octane action. And then come back to this game and tell me if it's hard.
You heard it here first, folks. Stay tuned for the Devil May Cry 1 map out.
Yes, please.
There you go.
Terry's on board. Don't bait him. He's gonna comment about it.
You guys want to go to the next section of the game?
Let's do it.
All right. So you make your way
Downtown.
through the mansion downtown. There is kind of a back room on, I think it's the first floor of the mansion, where you can go outside. Because if you try and go outside from the main hall entrance, a dog tries to attack you, and you end up in the courtyard. Bruno, can you give me kind of a rundown of what the courtyard's like?
Yeah, another great area in my opinion in terms of graphics. It just sets the atmosphere incredibly well. And compared to the original, this area it's like a new area, and it just introduces the player to that outside element. Just being lost in kind of like this forest looking type areas, cemetery, and just very, very, very well set up in the atmosphere, as far as the graphics and the pre-render backgrounds. And also, obviously in tune with that idea of being outside, there's the enemies are, kind of like, the animals, if you will, infected dogs and snakes. I think this is the first instance of the game where you can get poison, I think. So, better learn that blue herb, mechanic to heal yourself. So yeah, and some interesting puzzles as well, with I think the crank, you have to lower the water and everything like that, leading up to that, going to that cabin, which is another key moment in the game, in my opinion.
Is this where you meet the Bagman?
The who?
The bag man. I don't know his actual name. The guy with the bag on his head.
Lisa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's actually.
I would prefer to call him the bag man. Thank you.
The bag mom. Get it right. So,
the bag man.
Daughter. Bag daughter.
The bag
the
man.
daughter. Her story is. I love the creepiness of Lisa's story. She's kind of like a new character or something that was added to the remake, and in my opinion, it just added that incredibly scary element to it. Because if you read the different files throughout the game, you kind of learn about her story and how her mom and dad also were involved in an Umbrella back in the 60s, and then she pretty much ripped her mom's like skin and put it on top of her body to be with her mom. And it has like a kind of like a sad ending towards the end, where she takes her mom's like body, I guess, and goes away with it. But I thought it was in my opinion, that's one of the best added components for this remake, the Lisa sub story, if you will.
I love the scene where you walk in through the door, and then you're just like, huh? And then the bag mam's hands just go bonk, and then bonk. Yeah, it's like, Jill, you're telling me you walked through that door and you couldn't like tell there was a smelly ass like bag person sitting right beside you?
I'm sure this whole game smells like corpses. If I had to attribute a smell to it.
You know what? You're probably right. But I don't know. Just somebody like wearing somebody else's skin. Like you probably could smell that. You know.
That's one of the struggles with like zombie horror, though, is because in every like zombie horror thing, one of the zombies seems to be sly enough to hide and then jump out at some point. And this time it was Bag Lady.
Oh, and she's not done either. She'll be back.
Yeah, that's the other crazy part about the game. She cannot die, so people that are not familiar with the game may spend like a good amount of ammo on her, and as we all know, ammo in this game is precious.
Oh yeah, I used like 50 handgun bullets the first time I saw her, and I was like, "What gives?" And so I was like, "Nope." When I found out she was invincible, I'm going back to the save point. Thank goodness there was a typewriter there.
I was gonna ask, do you guys fight or do you guys run? What's your tactic?
I just run.
Well, you have to run eventually because you can't kill her.
Yeah, no. I mean, for just like normal enemies.
Oh, I killed everything.
Did that come back to bite you?
Oh, yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of don't want to do that.
But I was on very easy, so like the ammo they gave you was plenty, so I just started blowing everything away. But yes, it did kind of come back to bite me. Like I should have just run past everything at the beginning. That would have been smarter, knowing after.
There's actually with that first monster that you meet, if you go back in the mansion, Barry shoots him for you, and then like there's a couple you can kind of just ignore and avoid, and they just disappear later if you've avoided the room. I think like that was something I was realizing with the walkthrough too, is like it suggests that you don't fight anything.
Well, it did it for the remake specifically because of like the original didn't have this, but the remake has the Crimson Heads, which is something you can see in the mansion, you know, like before you get to this point too. So if you're walking down, putting down a bunch of zombies, and you don't dispose of the corpses, they will get up and be red, and they're running after your ass. Like you got to fight at that point.
Did the original game have the lighter mechanic?
No, because he also didn't have the Crimson Heads. So.
Wow. Okay, so there was no Crimson Heads, there was no Lisa, there was no zombies coming back from the dead.
They add certain areas too, like that whole backyard thing with the stairs. That's gone in the original too.
Wait, this courtyard? Did this courtyard exist in the original?
Not really. It went straight into the area with the crank, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So do you guys Bruno mostly summarized almost everything here. The only thing maybe I would add is just like that in that cemetery you get access to like the Magnum. What do you guys think of the courtyard? You think this is a well-needed area, or like it helps the game's cause?
I would do my cloud. Meh.
Okay.
I personally love it because I think it ties the game pretty well, and especially introducing Lisa, and then later on in the game, you kind of find that shortcut in the courtyard on the caves area, if you will, tunnel area, and then you exit out back in the main courtyard area. I personally loved it, yeah.
Well, I just don't think they do too much with it gameplay wise. I think thematically, it works. But like gameplay wise, like the only big puzzle you have is the one where you get the Magnum. Like, and that's just like pick up the things, observe the back, and then put them back, and then it's.
I thought the puzzle with the wind was kind of interesting.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
Where you have to rotate the arrows. The north arrow pointed to the west or whatever. Yeah,
and the dog statue.
I like the interplay with the waterfall and draining the water.
Don't go chasing waterfalls.
Yeah. DLC.
Yeah, I like to Bruno's point too, like there's some intersectionality here because there's actually like the two paths in the courtyard. There's the Lisa path and then there's the waterfall path. And like I think you need to get like a key from Lisa's house to continue progressing. So I think it works well. I think thematically, especially like Lisa, I almost can't see how this game was as strong without her. Like that was just, it was absolutely terrifying. Like the moments where she popped up, and I don't know. I just didn't really like the retreading the waterfall path where you had to like go through the dam and everything, and you had to walk past the snakes. But again, I guess it adds to the tension and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Shall we move on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, while you spend time in the courtyard, enjoying the smell of the damp fern, you eventually make your way to a new residence. It's the residence.
The
Alex,
Ah,
tell me about the residence.
I hope you like the spiders and plants. Spiders and plants. Do we want to talk about the because you kind of go through this area and the aqua ring kind of close together? Are we gonna talk about both those at once, or do you want to talk about them separately?
Up to you guys. I mean, we can kind of like go through them together.
Because you don't fight the main enemy, like the big boss of this area, until you go through the aqua ring, right?
Right.
So
Yep.
I don't know.
The residence was an okay area, I think. Like Alex was saying, lots of spiders and plants and sharks.
And Barry has a fucking flamethrower this whole time and does nothing with it.
Yeah.
What an asshole!
Classic Barry.
He's like, oh yeah, I packed my flamethrower today.
Did
I
you
lo-
guys
Oh, go
fight?
ahead.
Oh, sorry. Did you guys fight the boss of this section, or did you make the like the poison and mix?
Remember when I said that my favorite puzzle was out here? That
Mhm.
was it.
Oh, cool.
Making that poison.
Yep.
I figured, and this is going to sound like a brag. Believe me, it's not. It's actually going to sound like a 2-year-old talking about himself. But I figured it out all by myself. And then I found that there was like a thing that hinted at it that like kind of told you the things later.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, so I love math puzzles. I'm like obsessed with math, and I love the little puzzle for it. And I was not going to leave that room until I figured it out. And so I just spent like a good little bit of time. I was like, there's oh, all the colors have numbers. Okay, there's the numbers. Okay, if I add this, oh, it changes color. And then I figured the whole thing out that way, and I was so pleased with myself. So that was my favorite puzzle of the game.
I agree. That's a very rewarding puzzle if you can figure it out. How to do it on your own.
Yeah, I figured out how to destroy the beehive.
That's a puzzle too. I mean, that's not just given to you or anything. That's kind of cool.
There were some really good moments in the residence. One of like the most shocking for me was when you walk into it's a larger room. I don't know the name of it, but it's when you meet your first spider and it's hanging on the wall behind you, and this thing is a monster. It's just like twice your size.
Yep.
Nah, man, I play EDF. They want to scare me with a spider. I'm going to try harder than that.
Did you know that you don't have to kill them? Like, they will not attack you?
Even the one that's behind you. There's one on the ceiling, like in the
They won't
room with
both-
like the pinballs, the billiard table.
Both those spiders are not aggressive, which is kind of interesting.
The only one that is like later on, right?
Yeah. I was terrified too. And then it's like they just don't do it. Like they'll kind of like go, hey, well, yeah. But they're
What's up,
big
bud?
teddy bears.
You want to play around? He's hanging out.
Going around downtown.
Walking
Going out
fast.
playing billiards with the spiders.
So there's
My friend
actually a cutscene with Barry and Wesker, is it? Or it's like two unidentified human beings.
Yeah, then Barry's like, I was talking to myself.
Dude, can I just starting from here forward? Like, well, maybe even before that. Now I'm thinking about it, but fuck Barry.
Oh yeah, and not only that, but like it's pretty clear early on. Like, man, Wesker's up to something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, they don't even try to hide it.
Yeah, I mean the dude wears sunglasses indoors in the dark. Like he's got to be evil, you know?
Yeah, there's no way.
Oh my gosh, one of the funniest things to me is like you're all running to the mansion together in the beginning of the game, and then suddenly Chris just is gone.
And nobody cares.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, where's Chris?
Oh, well. I just like the picture like this whole time because like it switches off during the different campaigns, but during Jill's campaign, like Chris just kind of pops up the like at the end. He's like, "Hey, I'm back." Like I like the picture the whole time. He just like he ran in and he was like, "Man, I really gotta use the restroom." And then like he was just in the bathroom the entire time. Then he came out and they were like, "We gotta go." He was like, "Oh, okay, let's get out of here."
I was in the red fields. Speaking of puzzles, this actually had one of my favorites. Was not the one that Spencer accomplished, but the book puzzle.
Yeah.
I really liked how like every book had a different spine, and then I was like trying to see it. It actually took me a few attempts like to line everything up, but it was cool. It was like a picture of Aphrodite or something.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys want to talk about the Aqua Ring?
Let's do it.
The Aqua Ring.
Sharknado.
Yeah. Zombie. I don't think the sharks are as bad in this version as they were in the PS1 version, honestly.
Ooh, if you take your time though, you get like O code.
Yep. Yep.
And so like that was really frustrating to me when I was like trying to kill all the sharks and like realizing like, oh my god, this one is just like just keeps coming after me. I knew this scene was coming because they if you let like the menu screen play and like you see like the
Attract
videos, right? Yeah. You see a little spoiler of the sharks. So like this whole time coming up to this, I was like, I know it's coming, and then there's like water leaking out of the door before you walk in. And I was like, this is it, isn't it? This is where I meet the sharks.
It's this game had that the shark thing, and in it it really made me want to cringe, like in thinking that it existed, and then when it happened, I was totally into it. This game is miraculous how it does that. Because a friend of mine, I was talking to him, he's a Resident Evil fan, and I was like, I think I'm a good way partway through this game. I was not, but I was saying that to myself or to him, and he's like, "Did you fight the zombie shark yet?" I was like,
what?
That's the match. I was like, oh, okay, I'm clearly not anywhere.
I love it. I'm a sucker for like those kind of crappy shark movies and stuff. So zombie sharks are right up my alley.
I think it handled it so well. I was so impressed by this whole thing. I had every reason to be like, oh, okay, zombie sharks, how stupid. Mm-hmm. But they got to it, and I was buying it. And they built up to it. They're like, there's something living in this little fish tank. Like, there's something, we're experimenting with these things. And there you go. You get the payoff of just the huge-ass, terrifying shark.
Dude, Resident Evil's good at that. Like, especially old Resident Evil's good at making, like, just anything scary. Like, Zero has fucking leeches, and they're terrifying.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I really love when you get past the sharks and you go down the stairs. Like once the pressure valve starts releasing, there's like this whole really tense time sequence, and you see the percentages of like the pressure, and like the big shark starts ramming into the glass. And it's a bunch of back and forth, and like trying to navigate that sequence with the camera angles was just crazy. I must have been like almost at 100% before I got that puzzle. I was like, "There's no way that shark's coming for me."
Stressful, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was fun. I really like that sequence.
I've done that sequence, a million times, and I it still scares me. I feel like I'm gonna run out of time. So it's it's a pretty good sequence in building up that tension.
That's also a part that's better in this than the original, I believe, too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and what a great scene afterwards. Like, that's something that you don't necessarily see in a horror movie, is like walking through the end. Like, if that was the end of the horror movie, that would be the characters then like walking through it at the end. And there's just like sharks like helplessly flipping, and like the main shark is like tired and like out of it. And you think he's dead. I mean, maybe, I don't remember, but maybe he's breathing or something. But and then obviously you go up that thing. But what a great like post boss fight scene. I don't think I've ever experienced that in a game before.
I was talking to a friend the other day, and he's a big Resident Evil fan too, and we were talking about beat 'em ups, and I was like, wouldn't it be awesome to make the first Resident Evil into a beat 'em up? You play as like Chris, Jill, and Barry, and then we're talking about like that scene. I was like, I want a level where I just walk through and I have to like punch the fuck out of like these zombie sharks.
Exactly playing this game. Like co-op. Boom, do it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. No, I love this. This shark scene is so good, and like I like that you killed all these like bosses almost just through well, not almost, like through puzzles, and it felt just as rewarding as if I were to like fight a thing with like 1,000 HP and had to beat it down. Like it felt just as rewarding, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely. Love me a good shark sandwich.
Better than a Jill sandwich.
Actually,
You would have fit nicely into a sandwich.
I should probably bite my tongue here.
Feeling hungry.
Yeah. Quite. You know, I got razor shark teeth here, so I don't want to bite my tongue too hard. You make your way through the residence. Anything else for the residence? Oh, wait. They got the snake scene, don't they?
No, that's back in the mansion, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
There's isn't there a first snake scene here though, where the door's broken and then Barry comes to rescue you? That's why you had to make. Oh no, it's not a shark scene. It's the plant.
Yeah.
Yeah, the plant with the flamethrower. Then
Yeah.
that's what I was talking about. Barry had this fucking flamethrower. What an asshole! Why are we doing all this shit? Barry, just do it, man. Just go burn everything.
No wonder he never had any problems getting around.
Yeah.
He's just lighting everything on fire.
He's talking all the good shit, man. He's got the good magnum. He's got the flamethrower.
Why can't you play as Barry? Shit.
Yeah, I want to play as him. Where's that one?
The plant thing was cool because, like, you know, I got in that room first because I was trying to do it without the walkthrough, and the thing was just smacking me around. So I was like, oh, you know, there's got to be something else going on here. You can't even aim up at this thing. And then that's when, like, you have to find the place to use the potion. I don't think I ever would have figured this out without a walkthrough. Not necessarily the combinations, but like finding that room with like the plant roots hanging down and then using it on that.
It's really sloppy. That's very sloppy, but yeah.
Cool concept though.
Yeah, definitely.
And the plants were kind of alluded to, I think, even at a point in the mansion where like the roots are popping out of a like a water, like a, you know,
Fountain, right?
Yeah, not a water fountain per se, but like, you know, a statue fountain.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to use like the chemicals on them. That's actually a really cool puzzle in and of itself. I just don't know that this one was done in like a way that seemed as logical as that.
I love giant tentacles grabbing up my ladies. So, moving on.
This hentai is art. There was this. This is the part of the game, like right here. This is like weird room where I was like, this game has way more to it than I ever thought. Like this is where, because Resident Evil's part of the lexicon. Oh, it's the zombie game. Cool. I'm like, whatever. Okay, there's zombies in it. Neat. This is the part where I was like, oh, like this is why people have so many memories of this game. There's so much more to it than like zombie game.
Yeah.
It is, and it's not even cheesy. Like it could easily, like if you just talked about it on the like basic surface level, you'd be like, whoa, sharks, and there's a crazy plant, there's a spider we didn't talk about, like the tiger spider, whatever it is. But there's like all these weird things. And you'd be like, oh, it's like that's very video gamey. It's handled in such a good way. I totally understand why people hold it in like a high regard. It makes so much sense to me now.
And you don't even think of them as necessarily bosses, but instead as like kind of extensions of just the problem. And like this whole time you're really trying to come to the root of the problem, no pun intended, because you're fighting a plant. But, you know, like finding the diary entries littered about and like discovering, oh, on X day we applied it to, you know, the plants, and they started showing, you know, wild nature. This reminded me a lot of Metroid Prime in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it lends itself really well.
The lore is really good.
That's almost essentially what this game is a Metroid style game, correct?
Yeah,
you could say, yeah. One might say Resident Evil.
Breaking it down to its key components, like It's basically like a 3D Metroid style game. So
Very apt. Moving on. So you go back to the mansion.
my boys are here.
Yup. Your boy Hunter.
Fuck them.
Hey, remember the deal with Hunter. Not allowed to curse. So you have to go back to the mansion. Took you a minute. You go
I
back
know
to
who that is.
You're coming back the way you came in, and as you're coming back, you go like you see through the lens of this creature that's like chasing you down. It's like it seems like a dog kind of like chasing after you. Breaks through the door, and then suddenly you're in the crowded hallway, and it's a hunter. It's this kind of like massive frog, I guess you could say.
If you don't have your shotgun, good fucking luck.
How do you guys respond when the hunters start hunting you?
Bam!
Shotgun.
That's my shotgun, yeah.
I always carried one heavy weapon with me.
Yeah, you almost have to. Yeah. No, the introduction of the hunter, I think that's when the game steps up in difficulty. I think it's a hard game to begin with. If you don't know what you're doing, especially, I think even if you play on the easier difficulties, a lot of the zombies are just bullet sponges pretty much. But, once the hunters get introduced, they have that one hit kill attack, where they can, take your head off. And in fact, that actually happened to me. I think talking to you guys before we started recording, but I lost like about an hour and a half of progress because, I was just not saving often, I guess, and got into an area where two hunters were, and, they broke through the window, and, one of them did the one-hit kill attack to me, and that was it, game over. I had to redo an hour and a half of gameplay. So, yeah, I think this is an area where the game definitely steps up in the difficulty.
And the hunters are like one of the most iconic Resident Evil monsters too. I would say like right up there with the we'll talk about the Tyrant later, and the Lickers from 2.
Yeah.
The hunters are very iconic.
Yes.
Right, and part of that is because like Revelations is actually one of the more popular Resident Evil games of like the past decade or so. Even I know who they are.
I think the Cerberus, the dogs, are pretty.
Those are pretty iconic.
Pretty
too,
big,
you're right.
too. I always think of dogs when I think of Resident Evil for some reason, and Lickers for sure.
Yeah, Lickers are like the big one for sure.
Finger licking goodness, because those zombies love your fingers.
When you get back to the mansion, there is that one puzzle I was talking about where the walls close in.
Oh yeah, you had to push the statue.
And so what I pushed the statue in like a little bit, I think, just because I knew it would close on the statue. And then I started looking around for what to do, and the walls closed in, and then I was stuck behind the statue and the walls, and so that was an instant death. Because as soon as the only way to get out is to push the statue, but the statue's holding the walls apart.
Oh.
So I died. I lost not a lot of progress because I was a coward and saved a shit ton, but like that was like oh okay, now the puzzles are starting to kill me.
That one is a tricky one because it's timed, and the walls are closing, and you have to navigate the tank controls and the camera angles. It's that one was crazy. It took me like 10 attempts.
I got very good at maneuvering that room. I'll tell you that much.
That actually took a few tries for me to solve the puzzle, even after replaying this game a million times. When you push that statue, obviously you have to turn around the corner and go pretty quick, but you have to keep pushing left in order for the statue to hit the switch. But it wasn't working for me. I was like, what the heck's going on? I know you're supposed to push it left, and I for whatever reason I stopped pushing left when I thought it was like the statue is almost on top of the switch, but you have to give it like a very small push in order to finish that sequence, and I kept missing that, so I had to repeat it like 3 or 4 times.
Same exact thing happened to me.
Yep.
Mine's slightly different. I thought you had to push it into the wall. Yeah. And so I kept pushing it, and you don't have very much time because the walls are closing in, and it'll just start pushing the statue. So I pushed it all the way that I thought, but like you said, there's like one you have to give it like a tiny nudge to get it in the rest of the way. But I still see things as squares, which I think most people do probably when they think Resident Evil. So I'm just thinking it's on the right square. It needs to go in. So I'm running around it, managing those tank controls, tankish controls, and then trying to push it into the wall, which is not going. And I did that like 10 times.
Yeah, when I first played it, this game, back in the day, I had to repeat that 80 times because I was trying to do the same thing. I was trying to push it into the wall.
Spencer, did you know that you have representation in the mansion?
Yes.
It's a Spencer Mansion.
The Spencer family crest. You actually need it to access a room.
Which is interesting because the Hoffler crest, which is me, is actually just a picture of a guy in the fetal position.
I don't know if I saw that portrait in the mansion, but I did see the Spencer family crest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's different.
I'm sure you took that position a lot when playing this game. So, okay, all right. I'm sorry for that one. But when you come back to the mansion, you got to do a shit ton of exploring, basically every room that you didn't go to. And I think it culminates in the snake battle, where the snake's kind of chasing you through the hallway on the 3rd floor and then down into the library. Spencer kind of alluded to it before, but do you guys have any feelings, experiences with the snake battle?
Actually, I want to step back a little to the first snake confrontation. You know how you're rewinding back a little bit. You have to get the serum to
Richard.
Right.
And I got cocky. I played this game a million times, and I was like, I'm gonna do some stuff along the way just to save time. And he actually died, which is something that it hasn't happened to me since I very first played the game. The first time. So I thought that was interesting. And of course, I lost the ability to have that upgraded shotgun throughout the game. So that bit me a little bit. As I play the game, but I kept playing. Instead of reloading my save, I was like, I made a mistake. I got cocky, and that was my bad, and I'll just keep chugging along.
He actually died on my watch too. I was curious. Can you get the serum before you see Richard?
No, the game doesn't allow you to. You can push X on that shelf, but it won't let you grab the serum.
Yeah, he died on mine too. Is that shotgun good? The assault shotgun or whatever?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's badass.
Well, great.
I like the DS version's notable for that part because there's like a CPR sequence with Richard, and it's very strange.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, you had to use a microphone.
You have to use it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like I would hate to play that in public and be like, "Get up, Richard!" blowing into my DS, just like on a bus stop or something.
That's good. See, games can be educational. You can teach you how to do CPR.
Well, he dies anyway, so it didn't really help anything.
They can teach you how to do it wrong.
But yeah, the second battle, I think it's also interesting. Having that, I guess it's a library area where you fight the snake for the second time. I think it's one of the most fun battles because it keeps circling around and you have to make sure you keep your distance.
Yeah, he takes a lot of bullets, that snake. What's his name? Calm or something?
Forgot the name.
He has a name.
Kevin or something.
Kevin
the Snake. I use the nades on him.
Yeah.
Those are good. I underestimated those things throughout most of my playthrough.
Save those for the big boys.
Yeah.
His name is Yawn.
Yawn, yeah.
Yeah, Yawn. Yep.
Why?
I like Kevin.
Yeah, I like Kevin too.
Can we petition to call him Kevin instead?
Capcom, here's our petition.
He will forever be known as Resident Kevin.
He's like, get out of my house.
Why you keep coming here with your guns?
This is my mansion.
I'm retired.
Why are you so evil?
You're a giant snake. Get some peace.
You shot all my little cousins in the courtyard.
I'd be pissed too if like somebody just broke into my house. You know, I'd be like, "What the fuck, man?"
Stop unlocking all my doors.
Shooting up my library.
How interesting is it that the game, like most of the bosses of this game are not human and are usually gigantic. And then as the game progresses to the end, the most terrifying parts of it are the human parts. I think that's so interesting.
Oh, yeah,
A lot of video games go the opposite way, where they're like, "Oh, humans are scary," and then let's make a giant shark at the end. Like this game takes the exact opposite approach, and I think it's much to its credit that it ends up making it more human than not.
Well, we could talk about Resident Evil 6 for a minute. There's a boss at the end of the Leon campaign in that game that's a man who just starts transforming into like different sorts of animals and shit, like virusy forms of animals. So yeah, it's like the opposite of that, where it's like the end boss is just this giant scorpion. You're on a train. I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff like that, but yeah, it's like the complete opposite that they've fallen into later on, where it's like, oh, this man's transforming into this wild creature. But yeah, this one's like at the end when you figure out what's going on, you're like, oh, this is scary.
Let's actually take that as an opportunity to segue into the next part of the game, which is the courtyard basement. So to get here, you actually have to do some real convoluted work in the courtyard to drain the waterfall. And then you go down into the tunnels.
Is this where you guys want to
say again?
Is this where you Indiana Jones?
Da, da, da,
Da.
Yeah, where you dodge the giant boulders.
Yeah, giant boulder.
Right.
It's probably my least favorite part in the game, just because the pre-render backgrounds are pretty much the same. It's kind of like a cave or tunnel-like area.
Yeah.
Not a huge fan of this area in the game, but yeah, and you can also die in one hit, from the boulders. Not fun.
I like the part where you have to like turn the whole room. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Or the boulder, right?
That's like even cool. Like even the PS1 version, that part was always super cool to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the whole room shifts, and I've never seen a game do something like that.
This is actually a good opportunity. I just said that too, but I forget why I said that. The reason I mentioned the human thing was like, this is a good fuck Barry moment.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, Lisa's the star of the show here. This is like the Lisa story, and Barry's kind of
What about the spider?
unfortunately entwined with that.
That's true. There is the spider too.
Where's the spider? There's a nest, right?
Go ahead. Tell us about the spider.
There's a nest. There's a spider, and you gotta kill it.
And he's like probably 1.5 times the size of the other spiders.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm a slightly bigger spider.
He's gushing poison too,
Hey,
so
I'm
you can't
King
stand near
Spider.
him, even after he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
So that was
My
pretty
guide
creepy.
told me to use incendiary grenades, so that's what I did, and this was very short.
Okay, now we can get back to Lisa.
Okay.
Back to Lisa.
Back to Lisa. Lisa, back to you. So Barry, once you can access the elevator, you go down the elevator with him, and he's like, Jill, you go this way. Go find out what's over there.
I'll stay here.
Yeah.
Yeah, secure the exit
Typical Barry.
by flamethrower.
You go explore. It's like the cavern of Lisa. She happens to be down here, just for a nightly stroll. She was doing laundry in the courtyard basement room.
Getting a new bag.
Right. She had to replace her old one.
Gotta wash my mom's skin.
She had to wash her face, do her face routine. And you have to like push a box onto a lever or like a push thing, and then you come back, and then what sight do you see with our boy Barry?
Oh, he leaves.
Yeah, you come in as he's taking the elevator up. You're like, Barry, why? Why, Barry?
Why would you do this to me? Oh.
She like doesn't understand.
Did you guys unlock Mickey Mouse? I didn't play this version.
Barry, where'd you go? Hello?
Where'd you go, Barry?
Barry, don't leave me here with Lisa.
Barry, you motherfucker!
I forget exactly what you do, but how did you guys feel about this sequence of the basement in the courtyard?
Yeah, that's where it kind of opens up, and you find out the Lisa's, I guess, house, if you will. You have to solve the puzzle where you get the flamethrower and use it as a counterweight to open one of the doors in the tunnels, and that leads you to her, I guess, secret room. And that's when you find, I think, the last remaining piece to open one of the main doors in the main hallway. And this is the area where it kind of connects the tunnels, and then you find the shortcut to go back up to the Lisa's cabin. So after that, you pretty much get the two like umbrella-looking logos, and are able to open that door under the main hallway or main room at the entrance of the mansion.
Mm-hmm.
Whose house? Lisa's house.
Enjoy your free 1-week resort here at Lisa's cabin.
We've got everything you need. Rot, mold,
Bags.
bags,
And
a lady's skin.
Typewriter.
Enjoy your vacation. The sights you'll see are zombie dogs, zombie spiders,
Sharks.
zombie sharks, zombies,
Barry.
a snake, some bigger snake. Some smaller snakes, a big snake, and we even have a pool.
Take a nice scenic tour ride through our cemetery. We have 2 graves. Both of our graves have puzzles for when you need entertainment.
Yeah, for whatever reason, there's a magnum inside one of those graves. For what?
Isn't that where you hide your magnum, Bruno?
Huh?
I said, is that not where you hide your magnum? Or
Well, typically, yeah.
Yeah.
Inside a grave,
I don't know why this game's so scary. I mean, all this is pretty normal to me.
That's what it is. After all this time, Resident Evil is actually a realistic look at
Kentucky.
Yeah, the suburbs of Kentucky.
Wouldn't surprise me.
The Resident Kentucky mansion. Okay, let's move on. So this brings you back to the mansion where, as Bruno was saying, you use the umbrella logos to go down that door to we don't know where it's been leading because we haven't been able to access it throughout the whole mansion ride. It is an altar. An altar of the beast. Some might call it. Well, when you get down there, you'll see an altered beast.
Another type of beast. His name is
Barry.
It's
our boy Barry.
Fuck Barry.
And you walk up, you're like, "Yo, Barry, what the hell, man?" And he's like, "Hey, Jill, just what are you doing here?"
How did Barry get down there?
That's right. It's a good question.
And he pulls a gun on you.
Maybe he got some fake umbrella logos that he used to access the door.
But who took him out after him?
Huh, that's a good point.
Maybe he used the fire escape.
That could be.
Maybe Wesker took it out to protect him.
That's true. Wesker,
I got you back, Barry. That doesn't seem plausible. Knowing what we know now.
That area, it's kind of weird because obviously, you get to Barry and he tries to kill you, I guess. And then you have an option in that sequence in the game, which I thought it's pretty interesting that the game gives the player a choice that you have to make, on on a split second. What did you guys do in this particular area?
Yeah, I saved him.
I love Barry.
Yeah.
I killed that fucker.
How could you?
What do you mean? How could I?
Whatever. Your choice isn't.
The game gave me every reason to kill that motherfucker, and I killed him.
Your choice isn't canon because Barry's a main character in Resident Evil Revelations 2.
There you go.
So
Not in my revelation.
whatever you did, Spencer, doesn't matter.
Dude. I had every reason to kill that guy, and I did. And I said, I want your gun, and I took it, and it was awesome.
After all the Red Baron has done for you, for pizza purposes.
Yeah, he ditched me in a psychopath's cave,
Okay.
and then he pointed his gun at me, threatening to kill me. I don't know at what point you're supposed to go, man, I should save this guy. I don't
Because
know.
Lisa's about to chop your head off.
Yeah.
That's
Okay, but I have a really good gun, and he does not. So
Okay, fair enough.
the
The invincible Lisa. Yeah, I couldn't bring myself to do it. I don't know what it was. I kind of wanted to see what would happen if all the stars team was there at the end. So that's why.
I think it's the easy way to do it, because if you hand his gun back at him, he kind of covers you, and you have plenty of time to I guess open the coffin by throwing those rocks.
Yeah, push him off the ledge.
Yep.
And then you open the coffin, and what happens?
Lisa's mom is there. What remains of her?
She goes, Mother! And then she grabs like the head or something, right? And then she just like, okay, I'm out of here.
Yep. And I don't think you ever hear back from her.
Let's check in on Lisa.
She pulled a dime.
What happened to Lisa?
She jumped off the cliff.
Yeah, she pulls a dime. She jumps off the cliff.
It's a little callback.
It's ironic that she pulled a dime since she isn't dying. So, got nothing.
Wah,
Nope.
wah.
Lisa.
Yeah, good times.
Good times.
Yeah,
Barry swears that she's still alive.
Well, Barry's dead, so we don't care about him.
In your timeline, in our timeline, Barry's alive and well, and he.
Well, and anytime you mention him again throughout this discussion, I'm just going to tell you that he's dead.
Well,
Like,
we have a big plot point with him later on.
No, I didn't. Fuck that guy.
I think it's interesting how after, if you decide to save him, Jill doesn't really confront him with like asking him like, why did you do this?
Right? Yeah, because he
He's like,
says, I can explain everything.
Right.
And he never does.
No. It's like everything is back to normal for whatever reason.
Well, you got to save it for the climactic conclusion.
That's true. That's true. Shall we go? Shall we head to the last area?
Let's do it.
Dexter's lab.
So
Dexter.
you make an altered path from the altar, and you wind up on a corner of the courtyard that has been previously inaccessible. And it brings you down after you use the metal of wolf and the metal of eagle in the fountain to the hidden laboratory. Talk to me about the laboratory.
DD, what are you doing in my laboratory?
Laboratory. It was. I mean, it makes sense. It's the most fitting ending to the game. I liked it. I love the lore. It basically, to me, it was a lore dump. I mean, there's other stuff in it, obviously, but it is a great lore dump of just kind of piecing the last bit of the puzzle together. What happened here?
It's probably really cool playing your first time, but after playing 48 Resident Evil games, that's not a real number, but after playing a lot of Resident Evil games and every game ending in a laboratory, looking back, I'm just like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's not my favorite area to revisit. I don't know. It's some of those new enemies, like the cockroaches or whatever there are. They're pretty annoying, and then you have that really annoying fuel transportation puzzle where You are not supposed to run. So a lot of back and forth in this area, and like Alex was saying, it's after playing all the other Resident Evil games, it's it gets tiring, I guess.
Yep, it's a laboratory again. Cool.
I've seen this type of level done better. And what it reminds me of is there's a moment, I think, in Metroid Prime where it's like you're in this kind of like science wing and the lights go out and then like the Metroid brains start like, haunting after you. I expected a lot here because as you exit the save room, actually from the first or second floor, there's a fuel canteen, and it just reminded me like, oh my god, like are there going to be zombies that are going to like pop back up? And so I was going around with the lighter and the fuel, but it ended up being almost unnecessary to use at any point. I liked some of the things like that I had been wondering about, like for instance from the very first moment of the game where that zombie kills Kenneth, the guy you don't even know, but I guess he was in the helicopter crash or something. You can suddenly watch his film, and you watch his film, and like it's just him getting eaten by a zombie. But like I guess the technology aspects, like even using the MO discs to trigger different parts of the cell lock. I didn't like the fuel transportation thing, but I did like the fact that like those cockroach things were like going through the vents, and you had to go through the vents, and like those things were deadly.
Yeah.
I think like being in a laboratory, they could have done a lot better with the enemies because like
Sure.
you're in the heart, like you're in the heart of the problem. So like maybe
Are you thinking,
what?
are you thinking like Last of Us 2?
Well, that or I was also thinking like even Resident Evil 4 does this better. Part of the way through, you get to these labs and you meet the regenerators, and they're like some of the most terrifying enemies in the game because they're like almost like if you don't know how to take care of them, it's almost like very unexplainable. Like why won't these things die? So it seems like otherworldly. So I think like being down in the labs, like they should have thrown something like that at you that was more like, oh my god, what the hell are these things? This is whatever. But instead we got cockroaches.
Yeah, playing this area,
Chimera.
Yeah.
the room where you enter, and they have the frozen bodies hanging. That automatically reminded me of Resident Evil 4 and the regenerators.
Yeah, the regenerators.
And quick trivia, the MO disc, like computer or machines in the GameCube version, are actual like GameCubes.
Wow.
Hell yeah.
That's cool.
And
Oh, I didn't piece that together.
but they removed that, or I guess they were able to, modify the image, and now for the updated remastered versions for the PlayStation 4 and PC and whatnot, they're just regular looking PCs. But if you play it on the GameCube, it's pretty cool because it's like a black GameCube where you put the MO disc.
I love when GameCube games do that shit. I think Twin Snakes had something like that too, right? Where it was like a GameCube and like some other stuff in there.
Yeah, it had like a Mario statue. On
Yeah. Like I love whenever, and I think the GameCube version of Beautiful Joe had like a Rob robot and like the packaging and stuff. Like I love when they do that kind of shit.
That's right.
Yeah.
There was some potential here. There's a puzzle where you have to like hold up the X-ray things, and it's actually kind of an easy puzzle because like everyone's name's alphabetical, A, B, B, C, or whatever, and then like you get the passcode. But this was like a real period piece because you go on like this kind of like old school Windows 98 computer.
Yeah.
And like, input, the passcode, and like it's based on like diary entry from like John to Ada, and he says, "My love, my first name is the password, and yours is this discrete name," or whatever. And I liked going in and doing that. I do wish in that room though there was like a bit more to expect. Like, it reminded me of Resident Evil Revelations with like the frozen corpses. It would have been cool if they started like coming to life and then chasing you after you put in the screen code or something. That kind of moment doesn't really happen.
I hate to bring it up because I always do because I'm a freaking loser. But in Chrono Trigger, there's a scene where they're talking about like what to do in this area, and they're in the future. So there's all these computers, and they're on the computer, and then Mara like hits the wrong button at one point, And then there's a scene that shows like more information about Lavos, like the final boss, like what he does to the world. It would have been cool in this if like when you're on that computer thing, there's another like button to push, and you could see some weird like bit of the experiment or something. Like, yeah, just like a cool little side thing, just to add more flavor would have been awesome instead of just literally being a mechanism for like 2 doors. That would have been cool.
Yeah, I guess that puzzle, the one that Teddy was talking about, that my Gmail password actually is Ada. It inspired me to use that. The high security protocol from Umbrella.
Did you say your Gmail password's Ada?
Yeah.
Well, okay, and what's your Gmail?
SNES map.
John?
It's John at gmail.com.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny, you have this high security lab, and they use a 3-letter, password.
It's the 90s. It's America. So, there you go.
What's the password? Password.
Works for me.
Whoa. That's crazy. That's actually my password.
Another odd thing that I found, while playing this section is, I think there's a puzzle where you have the slide reel and you have to put the presentation and project it on the screen, and you kind of see like one of the last pictures, you see the Umbrella team, the scientists, and you see Wesker there, and it's almost like Jill doesn't say anything. Like, later on when you confront Wesker, it's almost like she's surprised to find out that he was linked to Umbrella. But I thought it was funny that, you find the evidence way sooner than that, and she doesn't do anything about it, or.
I know it's almost like that lore dump is like meant just for the player, in a weird way.
There's also Chris.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Chris is here, locked up
Chris.
in a cage.
Chris, cage up, Chris.
Yeah, could I get the ammo discs in place to save him?
I've played Resident Evil 5. I know he can punch his way out of there.
But this is the skinny Chris, though.
Yeah. This is the wimpy Chris. This is why he trained. He was like, I'm never letting that happen to me again. It's like pumping iron. It's terrible.
Did you guys save Chris?
What's that?
Did you guys save him?
Spencer didn't. He killed everybody.
No, I saved Chris.
No, you didn't. No lie. You killed Barry. You
I
killed
totally
Chris.
did. I saved Chris.
You're a monster.
So I started this game with Chris on medium and realized if I'm going to get through this game at any time, I'm going to have to restart on easy. And then
Why would you pick Chris over Jill?
I don't know. I was connecting with him a little more, but then I was like, if I'm going to start over, I don't want to play the same game, so I just switched over to Jill. And I also read that she had like the shotgun really easily, so I was like, okay, I'll just do that.
But you can't do anything with Chris, right? Like, because he's just sitting there and
He's chilling.
yeah, Jill's like, "Oh, I'll save you." There's only one way to save him, though, and that's to go to the final portion of the laboratory.
They say a hero will save us.
And I don't want to wait any longer. I just want you to know that it's Jill. Laboratory P4.
Before what?
Before the credits.
Well, if
underwhelming boss fight I think I've ever experienced.
well, Spencer, if you wouldn't have killed Barry, you would have found out a few things here.
Yep.
Spencer, what happened for you?
Yeah, tell us.
Well, obviously the Wesker stuff went down. Oh my God, you're the bad guy? I had no idea. And then the monster comes out, kills him, and then I fight him, kill him in one shot with Barry's handgun, with the Magnum. It was one shot, and he was dead. So that was it for me. What happened with you guys?
Well, it's funny you may ask, because if you don't kill Barry, you find out. Well, for one, Wesker's the bad guy. What?
What?
You also find out that Barry's been working for Wesker because Umbrella has Barry's family.
Oh.
Yeah, you killed him. You fucking killed him for no reason, you asshole.
No, I killed him for very good reasons that were clearly laid out in the game.
Anyway, so Wesker thanks Barry and tells him to go back up to the mansion. And as soon as shit hits the fan, Barry runs back in and shoots Wesker.
I just used Barry for my personal interests. Though both you and Barry seem to think I was following Umbrella's orders.
What? What are you planning?
I guess it's time for show and tell. It's magnificent.
For the sake of this thing.
You know, I hate goodbyes.
Barry!
Forgive me.
No, you're not to blame. It's Umbrella and Wesker.
Even if it meant my family, I couldn't bear turning my back on my friends again.
Shit! Oh, bam!
Oh.
Shoot him right in the chest. Yeah, he saves the day. Barry's a good guy in the end.
Wesker doesn't get killed by the monster?
Nope. Killed by Barry.
Oh.
Yeah.
Supposedly, he actually gets back up.
Oh, well, yeah, he's in 5 more games. Don't worry. But let's talk about the boss of the area. It's the Tyrant.
Yeah, this is the first encounter with the Tyrant. Yeah, just bring a lot of Magnum rounds.
Or just bring one.
I bet this was really scary back when the game came out.
Yeah, I mean the thing that obviously catches your attention is how tall the Tyrant is. This just huge experiment. Just that if he hits you, you'll feel it for sure. Yeah, you have to just bring a lot of Magnum rounds, and that's how I dealt with him. The good thing is that the way the area is set up, it gives you enough room to like run in one direction, and then there's an opening in between the lab area where you can just kind of go around him. So it's pretty well set up to have a successful fight.
He has a really long reach. I actually didn't realize there was like a part of the laboratory you could like squeeze through. So I thought it was just like between where he starts approaching you and the elevator. So I was getting cornered pretty easily, but I think this guy would have worked well as like a sub unit, like a sub enemy that was maybe just a little more difficult. Like if this guy was like sprawled throughout different portions of the laboratory, it would have given me more excuse to use my ammo. And I think that they could have done like a better, bigger boss or something crazy.
It's funny you say that because like the impact of the Tyrant is lessened if you've played the other games, because like 2 introduces Mr. X, and then 3 has Nemesis, and they're both like stronger, bigger, scarier takes on the same type of creature. Yeah, like I think like Nemesis is the iconic one, and he's sort of like the Tyrant, times 8, So so it's funny you mentioned like having him kind of sprawled throughout the labs, because that's sort of what they do in the sequels with Mr. X and Nemesis.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Spencer?
Well, my experience with him was a one-hit kill with the Barry's Magnum. So seems like killing Barry is the right way to go for me.
Yeah, I bet his family agrees.
Fuck his family. Yeah, you heard me.
Wow.
You'll be seeing Barry in the sequel. I'm sure he'll have a vengeance.
He's gonna come after me.
Yeah. Barry is the new nemesis.
What'd you say about my family?
Spencer, how could you let this happen to me?
But I guess I got the worst ending, which is only slightly different from the other ending because I like YouTubed it afterwards. You go up in the helipad and shoot your rockets, and then it just kind of ends. The helicopter comes and bye-bye, and then some guy grimaces at me.
Yeah, I think all you missed is like a very short sequence of him being, sitting in the helicopter. That's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even have the whole thing explode.
Oh, it explodes.
In typical Resident Evil fashion.
Yeah, it explodes.
Self-destruct.
That's actually one of my favorite plot points, is that like the mansion just fucking explodes. And then in Resident Evil 3, Jill's been trying to tell everybody that shit was fucking crazy in the mansion, and nobody believes her.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like one of my favorite plot points. It's like all the evidence is gone, so like they think Jill's just crazy.
So, what do you guys think about the map?
It was fun, successful. I think we covered the game pretty well. Bosses, different areas of the games, characters. I think it's definitely an interesting game to play now in modern times, because I don't think there's anything similar to this, just because it's not a successful type of genre, if you will. I mean, survival horror is successful, but I think the modern games rely on, games being either first person or third person view nowadays with all the technology. And I think both Resident Evil, the remake, and Resident Evil 0 are kind of quote unquote hidden gems, for new players that are trying to explore the survival horror genre. And I think these games have a very special place because they're very unique, and you're not going to find new modern games in the same vein as this remake.
I think of all of the Resident Evil titles, the first one has the best sense of cohesion with its map and its areas. A lot of the sequels kind of just take you all over the different cities, different locations and stuff, and don't really reuse a lot of the same assets again and again. Maybe 0 a little bit, but and that 7, there was a reason 7 actually went back to this style where it has like these set locations in a small area, because I think they realized it worked really well. Like, I remember most of the maps in this game very clearly. You can ask me like, hey, I'm playing Resident Evil 2 and and I'm in this part of the city and at this this part in the sewers or whatever, and I need to, where do I go from here? I'll be like, I don't remember. But you ask me, you're like, oh hey, I'm on this floor in the mansion, and there's this room with the paintings. Like, what do I do? I'm like, oh, I know exactly where you are. And I think that's one of the best parts about the first Resident Evil, is that like it feels, it's not too big, it feels grounded, and I think that works really well in its favor.
I just want to say I agree 100% with Alex. I think that's kind of like one of my favorite parts about the remake, and to an extent Resident Evil 0. The setting is much more contained, and it makes the game feel more realistic, even though it's a zombie game and whatnot. But I absolutely love the limited setting. Just a mansion. You're in the outskirts of Raccoon City. The sequels expanded that, which is cool in a way. But when you get all the way up to Resident Evil 6, for example, where it's just like a worldwide outbreak, it's just silly, and I personally didn't enjoy that. So I really appreciate the contained nature of the Resident Evil remake.
Yeah, and like I enjoy the sequels. Like 4 is like one of my favorite games of all time. But like even in 4, whenever you're done with an area, you're done. Like you move on. It's almost like you're playing through levels. And it doesn't have that like sense of cohesion.
Yep.
I'm curious to play Resident Evil Remake 2, Resident Evil 2 remake, whatever that was. Now I understand why people were so excited for it. Like, this is a really cool series. I was not expecting to like it. And in all truthfulness, I messaged Teddy. I was not happy with it at the beginning, mostly for the gameplay. I really, really struggled with it. But I think when you just kind of deal with it and you keep going and you push yourself and you can kind of get past it, and there's like a really solid game here. And beyond just being a horror game, like it's the gameplay mechanics are solid. And I was very surprised, and I wouldn't be surprised if at some point I did get the Resident Evil 2 remake and gave that a shot because I really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Teddy?
So I like Spencer. I think maybe like an hour, 2 hours into this game, like for the first time, I was getting frustrated too. I was getting frustrated about like, examining everything and progression. Although I appreciated it because there were moments where I just put like 5 hours in and then like I wouldn't touch it for a week because I was just like I loved the exploration and trying to figure things out. Everything was mostly logical with a couple exceptions. As far as progression, it actually reminded me quite a bit of like an Ocarina of Time in a sense, with really just making you look at every single thing. That was actually part of my frustration too, was like not seeing items and seeing it on my map that like I hadn't gotten everything in a room. And I was like, even reading the guide, it's like there's handgun ammo on the table. Where's the handgun ammo on the table? The table's gray. The handgun ammo's gray. Like, and even in the remake, like I could not distinguish these things. But what really made this game work for me was just the moments and how well spruced they are throughout the game. Like there are so many memories, like to the point that Alex was saying. And it doesn't really let up. Like you could look at the same room that you're progressing through in the beginning of the game of a mansion, and then when you're coming back through it on the other side, suddenly the lights are out and dogs are jumping through the windows. Or, maybe you attribute a moment when you're outside of the save room and there was a corpse, and then suddenly it just gets up and like starts chasing you. I don't like, and hearing just what the differences are between the remake and the original version, this remake is something else. Like it's just an experience. And like, Bruno's saying there just really aren't many games I've played that are like this. I liked Resident Evil 4 when I played it. It was for its time, made its impression on me. I was like, scared. But comparing that and this are just it's completely different. They're different styles of gameplay. The tension, you really feel the confinement in the areas of like the different, portions here. Even just with every camera angle feels like its own confined space. And combined with the fact that you have to try and like ease your way past like, like zombies or Lisa, or just run at full speed past the sharks. There's a lot of like undying tension here. I would love to give this a replay at some point.
Yeah, agreed. If you guys are, I guess since you're in that, mood or Resident Evil, classic Resident Evil, inspiration, I suggest you guys. Resident Evil 0 is not. It wasn't very well received, but in my opinion, it's another fun Resident Evil, and it plays exactly like the remake. It has some weird new things, like there's no chests where you can store stuff.
Yeah, that's the partner thing, right?
It has the partner thing, but
yeah.
I think it's a good game to explore, and it's a prequel to a remake, which is kind of cool. It kind of ties the background story pretty well. So highly recommend it for you guys to at least check it out. I know it's not for everyone, but I personally enjoyed Resident Evil 0 quite a bit.
Right, I own the Origins compilation, so it's on there, so like I can play it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the inventory thing, it drove me crazy, this game. Even Jill's was not enough. Like I kept running back and forth.
Yep.
A little nitpick. Could they not have just made the oil or the ink thing, like the ink cartridges, just like a side item? As opposed to me constantly having to open the box, use it, put it back in the box.
Yeah.
Little nitpick. Not the end of the world, but it was just kind of like, come on, guys. Like, this is kind of silly.
Yeah, they could have. I think modern Resident Evil games, all you have to do is hit the type or the save point, and you save the game, obviously. But I think that was more a kind of like a tribute to the original game.
I like the ink ribbon thing. I'm totally into it. I think that's a really clever way to do saves, and it actually adds to the tension.
Mhm.
I just wish it wasn't its own item that you had to like that counted the slot.
Every time you load the game, you need to put it back in the inventory.
Yeah, it's a little much.
Have you guys? Well, you haven't played it, but there's actually I forgot what difficulty it is, but there's a mode. Is it the first one where you where the the chests stay like the items you put in your chest stay in that one room, like they don't transfer over to the other rooms. So that's like one of the fucking hardest ways to play this game, because if you're gonna store stuff, like you have to go back to that room to get it.
Yep. That and trying to get all the achievements, I guess. There's a knife only.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's,
Nope.
Yeah, I'm good.
Not gonna
play without saving. I tried that. I made it 10 minutes.
I could probably play the easy mode without saving. I bet you that seems reasonable.
Yeah, and in order to get the achievement, I believe the game allows you to do that. And same for the knife only run. You can play it on the super easy mode, but it's still it's pretty difficult still.
You can beat bosses using your knife.
What's that?
How do you beat Jan using a knife?
I'm not sure. I never attempted, and that's kind of like one of my dreams to get a platinum trophy on the remake Resident Evil. Unfortunately, I don't have that same drive that I used to get platinum trophies. I used to be into that many years ago, actually, when I first got my PS3. But hopefully one day I can go back and get the platinum trophy or 100% achievements, on Steam. That's kind of like one of my goals, but I haven't tried doing the knife only run. But there's a lot of I guess techniques that you can use. There's a lot of playthroughs out there on YouTube, obviously, and a lot of techniques that you can use to kill enemies with the knife.
But watching speedruns are so fun because it's like 2 hours.
Oh yeah, that's insane.
Well, you've heard it here first, folks. Resident Evil, far from horrible, it's actually quite a successful horror title. Try it for yourselves. Also, be sure to check out SNES Mapper over on the YouTubes. He's got a great channel. It's great impressions, and I'm looking forward to more content from him, as well as future collaborations.
Can we close out with our best zombie impressions?
Okay, now the crow. I tried.
Don't fuck up that puzzle, you idiot!
Yeah, what the fuck are you doing on there?
It's red, you asshole.
Look at this fucking guy.
Thinks he knows how to do a puzzle.
This fucking guy keeps messing up the puzzle.
See that guy using the fucking guide?